Yo, welcome back to the Audio Theory Podcast. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button as well as the like button. What's good, Danny? How have you been?
I've been great, dude. A week back from San Miguel, Mexico, celebrating you. How are you feeling officially being married? Like, the shit's done. Like, we can move on with our lives now.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I feel like I've been married already. I've been with my girl for 10 years, so it's not that much different, but it feels a little more official now. Still recovering, like we were just discussing, but it was a beautiful event overall.
Beautiful event, dude. I at the venue, I was like, oh, it makes sense why we're here. Because I was like, what the fuck is San Miguel? But that being said, we'll catch up about that later on another episode, but super excited. Let the people know who we got on as special guest this evening.
Yes, sir. We got Matt Yonge, hailing from Montreal, I believe.
Yes,
Pleasure
sir.
to have you. Thank you for joining. Obviously, love your music and are excited to talk about your journey and all the things you got in the works. So excited to have you on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Likewise.
So it's funny, man. You're the fourth Canadian artist we've had on. So
Let's
it's like,
go.
I think we're fucking big in Canada right now, bro.
Let's go, man. We got to put Canada on.
That's awesome, dude. If you don't, Matt, if you don't mind, sorry. Like, how did you come across our pod in the first place? Like, what made you want to reach out?
So I found you guys through the interview you guys did with Joey Charette.
Nice.
As soon as I saw him post a clip, I watched the episode and I just loved what you guys do. And then I went and looked back on all the other content. I'm like, yo, these guys are working. You guys have been at it. And I really love the conversation you had with Joey. It was really good. And yeah, that's how I found you guys. And then I reached out shortly after, just kind of giving you guys your praise on the work you put in.
Awesome, dude. Yeah, dude.
We appreciate that.
We appreciate the love. And obviously, again, we're big fans of yours. Not saying that we're blowing up to any level, but we definitely appreciate your music. So we're like, oh no, we're definitely going to have this guy on. So
Appreciate it.
The love is definitely mutual for sure. So again, like the Joey one I mentioned before, we love to do a couple icebreakers, let everyone get loosened up a little bit, take the rust out for us as well. So Blair, a couple questions for our guy.
Perfect. I'll start it off with a funny one. If you are a wrestler or a boxer, what would be your entrance theme song?
Entrance theme
solid,
song.
dude. That's a good question.
My entrance theme song. I'd have to go with something crazy, like would be a good song. I'm trying to think of something like, you know what? I'd actually come out to like some left field type shit. I'd come out to like Beyonce's Halo. Fuck them up.
That would be super dope,
You know what I
actually.
mean? Because like on the like the subject of wrestling and shit, like in UFC, there's this fighter named Tai Tuivasa, and he comes out to like Barbie Girl and all this crazy shit, and then he pulls off like the most deadliest knockout.
Psychology, basically.
You got to come out to like some left field type shit and make them think you're soft, and then you just when it's go time, it's go time.
I like that strategy.
Yeah.
Good one.
That's solid.
I'll write that one down. When I become a boxer.
All right, Matt, for me, question for you. Obviously, we took a deep dive in your videos. A lot of alcohol consumed. Well, we'll talk about that later. So if you had a choice, preference, are we drinking, what's your favorite liquor, or are you more of a beer guy?
You know what? I'm a very picky drinker, and it's funny. My cousin, who's like my video director and my creative director, he always like points that out in me. I'll have these runs where I'll be like, I'm only drinking this, and I'll ride that out for like 3 months until I get sick of it, and then I'll jump back on something else. So when it comes to beer and liquor, I'm right down the middle. Right now, it's a beer vibe.
Yeah. Are you a specific beer that we would know of, or is like some like IPA shit?
I'm pretty simple with it, Bud Light, Budweiser, Corona, stuff like that. I don't really dive into like IPA and stuff, because like IPA, I feel like it's like you're consuming a full meal when you drink an IPA.
Yeah, I feel you on that one.
It's a bit much, you know what I mean? So right now it's beer, but just to shed light on the other side, it's when I am drinking like liquor, I'm a vodka soda kind of guy. Pretty simple and basic, but vodka soda, splash a bit of lemon and lime, I'm good to go.
Oh, dude, yeah, that sounds delicious. For me, I think everyone can attest at Blair's wedding. We actually almost ran out of tequila at some point. Dude, tequila. Have you ever switched tequila later on?
Tequila is a no-go for me. Tequila was one night in my life, and I broke up with tequila forever.
Really?
It was a night where I drank way too much in a very small window, and I'm at the point now where when I smell tequila, it makes
gives you PTSD
it's literally
or
the
something.
It's the one and only liquor that is no fly zone for me anymore.
That's wild. I feel the same way about like vodka, dude. Like I could never do like a vodka shot. Like I would throw up before I even take a sip of it. Like it's
same.
Certain memories have you barred from certain liquors. It's like,
yeah.
I feel that. For me, dude, like my liquor drink is tequila, seltzer, a splash of pineapple juice with a lemon wedge. Bam. That shit is delicious, dog. Like crazy.
You know, when it's in some sort of like concoction and mix, I think I might be able to like maybe get my feet a little bit wet.
Tequila.
Yeah, when we're talking shots or sipping tequila, I am out.
You done? Fair.
I'm a tequila drinker because I heard it's the only upper out of like the different spirits.
Oh, that makes sense.
So for me, when I'm going out at night, at least I'm like, well, I don't want to go to sleep and I'm not going to drink coffee right now. So I'll have tequila, but it definitely is an acquired taste. And if you've had it before and had a bad experience, I totally understand how you're just like, forget that. I'm not even going to touch it.
It definitely had me on an up for a while, but it was one of the most incredible crashes.
There was a doubt. There was a doubt.
So what's something you enjoy doing that people might not expect?
I would say fishing. Me and my crew we're big into fishing. Like we take it serious. We got like different tiers of tackle and bait, fishing rods. Like we're serious with it. So every summer, me and my team of guys that I do my music shit with, we'll go fishing like every other weekend at least. Sometimes multiple times in like a week. So I would say the sport of fishing is something that I'm big on that many people don't really know about.
Like why though? Is it just the camaraderie or like just an excuse to like drink and be outdoors?
Yeah, it's just the sport of it, being with the fam and the crew, having fun, drinking a couple of beers and, you know, shooting the shit. It's a good way to bring people together kind of thing. So
it's a lot of waiting too, right?
Depends when you go. Like usually, like where I live, there's certain lakes in the summer where it's like every other cast you're getting a bite. So it's pretty fun if you're like a new fisher, because if you're new to fishing, you don't want to go out on the water all day and be like, oh, I got no bites. Like it sucks. You know what I mean? So where I live, I'm lucky to have like a body of water where it's pretty frequent. So it makes it more fun.
Nice. Yeah,
so that's definitely something that's a bit more low key for me, being an old fisherman. So.
That's dope. Yeah, I've only gone a couple of times, but once was in Jamaica, and that trip was pretty successful. But I went recently with my now wife and her family, and we were out there for like 5 hours. Didn't get one nibble. I was just in the I don't know what area you call it, not the cockpit, but where you hang out when you're not getting shit, basically. And I was just eating food and drinking. I'm like, I guess this is just really an excuse to drink all day.
Yeah, you know what? Sometimes when you go out for a fishing trip, you drink more beers than you catch fish. But that's just that's the part of the game, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't gone fishing since I was like 7 years old, so I might have to try that shit like soon. But
definitely a good time.
Any excuse to go on a boat. I got one that probably relates to your music a bit, at least the theme of like the most recent EP, which again I loved. If you had a choice to change something in the past or just see ahead to the future, what would you choose and why?
Something I could change. I would say like not documenting the journey. That's something that I wish I would have done a little bit more of.
Actually document the journey?
Yeah, because I've been doing music for like a long time now. Like in terms of even behind the scenes stuff, it's been almost 13 years for me.
Oh wow, nice.
So I wish I would have been like, you know, had the camera rolling, and I kind of had that realization like after watching
the Kanye documentary. I knew you were gonna say that. Yeah,
because I'm like, not only do they have footage, but it just shows how much they had that camera rolling, which was like it blew me away. So I wish if I could change some things, like go back to like the 2009 version of myself and just have somebody there in the trenches with a camera kind of capturing everything.
Yeah, I can feel that, dude. I feel like we also like Blair and I have spoken on the pod. Like, it's just cool. Like, even if this never blows up, touch on what it does. Like, it's just cool. We have documentary of like some crazy ass times in our lives, and we have it on like film or digital, whatever.
And I feel like people appreciate that kind of thing. Like when you look at so many different artists, like even like early Machine Gun Kelly, he was doing like this series called Kelly Vision, and there's so many different artists that have been filming for like the last 10 years, and it connects people that much more. It really plays into the fandom of things. So it's definitely something I wish I would have done a little bit more, but we got the cameras rolling now, so that's all that matters.
Yeah, dude, we were just talking about that before. So I think we both appreciate, like, you just have so much content online. Like sometimes, like, again, our goal with this pod, especially the interview series, is like really just put like, again, your fans who maybe don't know the ins and depths of you, like give them more perspective, but also putting more people on. But like, usually there's not much content on these newer artists, right? So it's just dope that you have like so many fucking videos out. Like that shit is like fire.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I try to provide as much as I possibly can and just, be an open book at all times, because I feel like other than the music, people can benefit from, what you give them outside of just like songs.
Sure. Yeah, I totally agree. So kudos to you, and obviously, hopefully, this is helps propel you, and obviously, you have a long career after this, so they can look back at this interview like, oh, that was a dope moment 10 years ago. So definitely excited about that. Blair, one more. We'll get into the meat of this.
Perfect. I'll make sure this one's good. Let's see. Would you actually, if you had to have one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I know this off the top because I had it the other day, and I was like telling myself how much I appreciate it. Medium rare steak, garlic mashed potatoes, asparagus.
Oh, that's not a bad choice.
It's
solid.
I have it like once a week at least. It's my go-to meal. I love it. That if I had to eat that every single day, I can assure you I would never get sick of it.
All right. You said medium rare?
Yeah, medium rare steak, garlic mashed potatoes, asparagus. You get a little healthy veggies in there, some protein. So
yeah, nice balance.
It can work into the
food pyramids right there.
Yeah, that was solid. Blair, how about you? What would be your like go-to, like, I think my girlfriend has like a phrase like it makes you happy meal. Like, what is your like meal for that?
For me, honestly, I'd have to say, I think I said this before too, but probably dim sum. Like, I don't know what it is, but
that's fire.
Literally every single time I get it, I'm like, I can eat this shit for the rest of my life. Similar to how you feel about steak and mashed potatoes. So I have to go with dim sum. Yep.
Dim sum's the one that comes like in little containers, right? You keep like opening it.
Yeah, it's like a bunch of little dumplings. Yep.
Yeah.
Assortment. Yep.
Yeah, dude, for me, because I just had it the Sunday after when we got back from the wedding, because I was like, bro, I need to pick me up or something. Bro, so we have, Matt, we have like a famous grocery store in South Florida called Publix. So they have like pub subs, so they make their own sandwiches. So it's a foot long on Italian bread, chicken tender sub. They toss the chicken tenders in buffalo sauce, mayonnaise, chipotle Gouda cheese, ranch dressing on top after the sandwich is already heated up, and then onions. Dog.
Damn, you got me rethinking my meal now.
Bro, every fucking bite is like insane. Like, it was so, like, my girl saw me like enjoying that so much. Like, can I have a bite? And I'm like, absolutely not, bro. Like, this is not the share. I asked you what you wanted, dog. Like, you ain't having a bite of this. So, yeah.
Damn,
out to pub subs.
That sounds fire.
Fire.
Like I said, it's got me rethinking my choice now. That's crazy.
Yeah, I've been like perfecting it for like 10 years. I'm like, well, let me remove the onions. Let me add this. I'm like, bro, like I have it to like a T right now. All right, man. Well, let's get into it, man. We appreciate you sharing some insight, man. Again, super happy to have you on. So again, obviously we know you go by Matt Yonge. Let the people know a little bit about yourself, a quick summary, and we'll jump into everything else.
Yeah, I'm a songwriter, recording artist, born and raised in Toronto. I reside in Montreal, and I guess the best way to sum me up is I'm somebody that puts my thoughts, feelings, and experiences on wax, and I'm the artist that kind of represents the underdog and the kid in the basement with that $100 setup trying to make it. Just the voice of the underdog, really. I think that's the best way to put me.
Awesome, dude. I appreciate that. I didn't realize you were also, so were you born and raised and then like moved like when you're like recently to Montreal? Like, what's your setup there?
Yeah, so I've been living in Montreal for about 6 years now. I lived in Toronto my whole life, and I made the move 6 years ago to work more closely with my cousin. because my cousin is the person behind all of my videos and pretty much everything visual. And I would always do like weekend trips out to Montreal. I catch a Greyhound for like $30, and I would always do back and forth like round trips. And it got to the point where I knew I was taking music serious, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna move out there and, you know, get a job, be closer to my cousin so we could work on like a daily basis. So I pretty much made the move for the greater good of the grind. And so it's been the like last 6-7-ish years that I've been out here like consistently.
Amazing, dude.
Nice.
And what's been like the most obvious difference between just the vibe in Toronto and Montreal? Like from it could be music or just like life in general.
I would say the pace of the city, because in Toronto, it's like a mini New York. So everybody is more kind of like hustle and bustle at all times, because to live in Toronto, you got to make like crazy paper if you want to live anywhere close to like the downtown core. I feel like in Montreal, it's a bit more, you know, it's a bit cheaper rent, laid back. It's more like, it's less flashy. You know, I always say like Toronto's kind of like the flashy clubs and dress up vibe, and Montreal's more like pubs and, you know, kind of gutter bars and kind of just more of that go with the flow type energy. So I'd say the pace in the city is way different.
Nice. And do you see yourself staying out there for the meanwhile, or do you see yourself being like some other artists who are like, oh, I need to move to California to like, you know, make it and propel my career and whatnot?
I think with the power of the internet, moving is not really that much of a necessity as it once was. But in terms of just staying here in general, I always see myself kind of moving around. Like even when I'm in one city, I move to like different neighborhoods and stuff. I'm always kind of moving around. So I think I would say the end goal for me, like when things like really pop off, I would love to kind of take it back to my city, like to my hometown. But you never know. I'm a spontaneous kind of guy. So in 6 months, my mind could be in a whole different place. But
yeah, he's in fucking Ohio.
In regards to like at least taking myself to other places for different periods of time, I definitely see that for sure.
Nice. And what no, I was just gonna say what was that one moment where you said to yourself, I want to write songs or make music? 'Cause I know you mentioned you were taking things seriously with your cousin and whatnot, but what was that, I guess, first spark? What was that moment like?
So the first time I ever wrote anything, it was like in 2007. And to be honest, there was no like deeper meaning behind it. I was just writing like raps in my class because I was not down to pay attention in class, you know what I mean? And I was just writing about, you know, random shit as a teenage kid. And I didn't think much of it, but what really kind of pushed me into a serious direction where I actually wanted to like publicly showcase it would be seeing Asher Roth kind of come into light. Because before Asher Roth kind of like had his moment in like 08, 09, I was a bit intimidated to like record and put anything out, because before that, being a white rapper usually was, you had to be like kind of hard, you know, because the only person to live up to that standard is like Eminem, coming from some crazy background, you know what I mean?
Right.
So there wasn't anybody really filling the gap of just speaking from someone who didn't come from a very rough background. And then Asher Roth comes out, and he's this suburban kid that shows, hey, as long as you're being yourself, you can kind of just put yourself out there. And that gave me a bit of the spark to be like, you know what, maybe I'm gonna record my stuff and actually put it out. So I would say Asher Roth kind of put the wheels in motion for me to actually say, you know what, take a risk on yourself, and as long as you're being yourself, you don't have to be this person with some rugged, crazy backstory, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I would say he was the artist, and that was like the moment in time that made me want to kind of just put myself out there publicly and kind of go for it.
That's
awesome, man.
Yeah, Asher Roth is super talented, like high-key like talented. Like no one really talks about him anymore. It's funny, he actually came to my fraternity when I was at University of Miami and just like smoked with us. And it was just like,
oh, for real, huh?
Bro, you have like a number, like a top 30 single out right now. You're just like vibing with a bunch of frat boys. I was like, what the fuck is
and
going
it's
on?
crazy.
I mean, he's got to live up to that song. Too. I love college.
Right, exactly.
And just like where he's kind of went from there, like he was kind of, you could tell at that moment he was doing that music to get on, but it wasn't really where his heart was, because he went on a whole different trajectory after. He started making the music he wanted to make, and like he stepped away from Scooter Braun and people that could have turned him into that like mainstream, almost like pop rap kind of act. But you know, I respect him for, you know, just following his heart and his gut and doing what he wanted to. And I still follow him to this day, and he's got a pretty solid career for himself. He can tour, he can put out the music he wants, and you could tell he's living the life he wants, and he's at peace with that, which is hella respectable.
Facts. Yeah. So for you though, like to that point, so you obviously started like in 2007, like even if it's just like, you know, in your notebooks in class, how close are you now in 2022 to like the music you actually want to be making?
Now I'm fully making the music I want to make, because I would say the early version of myself, which was not even really music I was releasing, because I had like a pretty solid chunk of years where I was just in a studio in Montreal, like behind the scenes, kind of just working on my craft. And a lot of the stuff I was making early on in my 20s was like, it was kind of just making records for the sake of making records, up-tempo stuff, party records, club type stuff. And then I would say over the last like 5 years is when I started writing from my heart and soul, like things I actually wanted to speak about and things that meant something to me. So at this point in time, and at least from dating back to the last 5 years, I would say I'm making the music that I truly always wanted to make, and stuff that is me as an open book, raw, authentic, cards on the table type of vibe.
Yeah, no, it comes to, I'm assuming I saw the comments on like your YouTube page. I'm assuming the response has been better since you probably made that shift.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Because now I'm fully being myself, and I'm giving people the most unfiltered, raw version of myself, because that's the only version of myself I'd want to be recognized for, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of people that get caught up in just making stuff that's not them, and then if you get stuck in that loop, you know, you kind of have to, you're stuck there. So if I'm going to get on in any type of way, it's going to be for who I am and what I stand for. So I'm definitely very proud of the music I'm making.
Yeah, respect it.
Nice, man. And on that note, with regard to feedback, I feel like for artists or just any independent creator of any sort who's coming up, you tend to feel a bit more vulnerable and self-conscious about your craft. Like obviously, you know, we're creating this podcast and we're not going to be perfect. We're never going to be perfect. And certain feedback might hit different if it comes from X amount of people. I also make music as well. And as someone who's clearly not famous or quote unquote made it, that feedback sometimes can be annoying or even piss you off. So just curious how you handle that, how you've handled that over the years, and like what your approach is moving forward.
I think the best way is to like acknowledge when someone's giving you like constructive criticism, when they're actually looking out for you and they're just giving like their solid 2 cents, and when people are kind of just like talking shit for no reason. Because when the minute you put yourself out there on the internet, you're inviting every and any kind of opinion, you know what I mean? And especially like when you participate in different platforms, like for instance, I just started going like heavy on the TikTok grind.
Oh, nice.
And I feel like TikTok is the most wild west like platform there is, you know what I mean? Like there's people that talk wild on that app. So anytime you put yourself out there, there's going to be people that talk shit for the sake of talking shit. But I've always been good at like realizing the line of when someone's like, hey, I'm actually just want to give you some like constructive criticism on this. And I'm a student of the game at all times. So I'm always open to when someone has, you know, something to say that's beneficial and when they're being genuine. And then on the other side, when people are kind of just talking reckless, it kind of just deflects right off of me, because at this point I've been doing music for over a decade, and I've had moments where I've had people say crazy shit, and if you want any sort of long career in this game, you can't really fold under that kind of pressure. So
Yeah.
I take everything with a grain of salt when I know people are just being idiots. And then when people are being genuine and want to have a conversation and, you know, are talking about constructive criticism, I'm always open to it, because as an artist and as a human, we always can get better no matter what. And it just comes down to putting the pride and the ego away.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that you say that too, because I won't name any names, but I know there's definitely a lot of big artists who will respond to that one comment in like a sea of a billion heart fire emojis and stuff. And it's just interesting how some of these dudes could have like 10 Grammys, but like all it takes is one random dude in like Wisconsin to be like, oh, he fell off or something. And then it just
presses them so hard. And I feel like it's almost a disrespect to the fan base they have, because you have so many people showering you in compliments and appreciating your work. And those are the people that should be getting the responses, that should be, you know, getting the time of day. And it's, like you said, it's the one guy in his basement in Wisconsin talking shit that gets all the reaction, all the attention, and you're essentially giving them what they want. So anytime I've had a negative comment, I'm like, you know what, I'm not even going to play into this, because there's 5 or 10 other comments of people showing love. And those are the people that I'm actually building with. So they deserve any type of energy I'm going to give to social media.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the way I look at least, you know?
That's great advice. Because I know, just like you, there's up and coming artists where I've been like, yo, I love this song or whatever. And it means a lot when they respond. They're like, thanks, bro. Like, watch out for my next release or something.
Yeah, for sure. And that's how like I've built like my core community that I have at this time. Like, I'm the type, if somebody comments, I'm jumping in the DMs and talking with them. And I'm not just replying with one emoji or something. Like, I want to ask them what about the song kind of like got to them, what it was. You know, I like building legit relationships. And there's so many of my early followers where I know them on a first last name basis and what they're up to in life. You know, it's really about like that fan by fan, brick by brick mentality, and nurturing those relationships along the way, especially when you're doing it like very DIY and independent.
100%.
Totally, dude. I like that approach a lot. So like for yourself, because I'm assuming, again, you've been doing this for a minute now, what are some actual like goals you have for yourself, be it this year or like the next 5? Like, what are you trying to achieve? And what are some of those goals, if you don't mind sharing?
So this year, like, I plan to release part 2 of my album in the summer. So there's certain goals like I want to hit in terms of I want to get my streaming up on certain platforms and just like stuff like that. But I guess you could take that a surface level in terms of the numbers, but I want to beef the numbers up just to have more people onto the project and have more exposure than I did in part 1 of the album. I definitely want to get on the road in some way or form. I want to get back to playing shows, because pre-pandemic, I was playing shows pretty frequently.
Oh, really? That's dope.
Yeah, I was like playing on some good like opening slots and stuff like that. So I want to get back to really kind of going on like tours and stuff like that, and really grinding out the road, because that's like an amazing way of building. You know, I'm still a big believer of like, you know, playing a lot of shows, word of mouth, like still doing that boots to ground work that a lot of people might think are the more old school templates, you know, like shaking hands in person. I know it's obviously social media is a big part, but that one-on-one interaction and actually, you know, showing face is still very important. So just getting back to playing shows and, you know, getting back to events and stuff like that, and just reaching more people, you know what I mean? I feel like any year I can look back on where the numbers are doing better and there's more people tapped in, that's a W, you know what I mean?
Big facts. So it's wild, man, because we take it for granted here in the States, especially me in Florida. Like, dude, the pandemic really lasted in Florida for like 5 months. And like, I know you guys were just like in another lockdown just a couple months ago. So
yeah,
like,
it's been crazy here.
Yeah, dude, so like just explain like how the pandemic has affected you personally, music-wise. Like, how's these last almost, dude, it's like almost fully 2 years, like in a couple of days now. So how's it affect you guys? Or affect you?
I would say in terms of, like shows obviously is the one thing. Like my last show was December of 2019. And it's been tough because every time, like, at least where I'm at, like in Quebec, every time we open up, it's a very small window of like a month or less. And then we shut down again because they were just kind of teeter-tottering on like what's right and what's not and this and that and their whole politics of things. So it's been wild in terms of like getting back to a normal schedule of getting to play shows and getting back to things, even like crossing the border, right? Because from going from Canada to the States, the last couple of years has been pretty crazy. It's kind of only now where it's becoming a bit more lenient, but the last, like in the beginning of it up to a year, it was like brutal. There was no chance.
Right.
So I guess just, you know, getting back and forth across the border, stuff like that. But one of the benefits is like just kind of getting to really lock down in studio mode. You know what I mean? Because when everything's open, you're here and you're there, you're going to events, you're out a lot. But the first like 6 months to the year of the pandemic, I was recording every single day because I got the studio at home. So I didn't have to leave or go anywhere. So there's, you know, ups and downs with it, but I chose to find more of the benefits in it than like, oh fuck, we're locked down. This is shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It sucks, but I was like, I'm gonna dig deep, find the silver lining in everything, and be as productive as I can to still say, you know what, we made the best of it.
Yeah, I agree with that, dude. I feel like it's almost like we've mentioned before on the pod, and just like everyone kind of has, like, if you couldn't find whatever kind of sparks your inner purpose during these 2 years, then you probably never even had one to begin with. Like, you know,
yeah, there was just so much time. And, you know, I obviously understand, like, you know, some people, like, they deal with mental health struggles and it wasn't the best for them. And it's kind of crazy because at the beginning of 2020, that's when I started to go my hardest. And it's crazy. The year that the world fell apart was my best year, like musically, which is crazy. But that just goes to what you were saying. Like, you got to find like that thing that you want to do and like use that time as like, you can treat it like it's your full-time gig because everyone had to stay home. So it's the one time you get to take your craft and actually treat it like you've kind of made it. You're doing it full time. And that's what I did. I just treated like every day like, oh, I'm there already because I get to wake up every day and record because I didn't have to go to like my 9-to-5 job at the time.
Yeah, totally. And in terms of that in your creative process and everything, like, was it a situation where you were banging out like 20 song ideas within a day, or do you have like 2 songs that you'd work on over like a span of like 3 weeks? Like how were you managing all of this flow of ideas? So for me, I write more than I record. Like, for me to record, I'm the type that instead of just like trying to bang out songs, I'm more into like recording like 1 or 2 really solid songs a day in terms of like, I know my vocals are at the best peak, everything's good. Because I get to this point in my head where I'm like, if I start to get like just song 3, 4, I'm like, I feel like now it's kind of the energy's dying. So I would rather just put my energy into 1 or 2 very well put together records every day. But I'm always writing. So I was writing like crazy, and I was making it like a goal to at least put together at least 1 song a day. But even more into the videos, because me and my cousin, we live like a block away from each other. And when the pandemic was in the height, we would like meet each other outside, and pretty much our neighborhood and city was our playground. Nobody was outside. So we shot so many like rogue music videos because we had nothing but time and nobody to really like, oh, you can't film here and this and that, because nobody's outside. So it was like the city was our like wide music video set. So I was doing at least 1 song a day, writing a few songs a day, and we were shooting videos like 2 to 3 times a week.
That's wild, dude. Like, just like grinding, dude. Shout out to y'all. That's awesome.
Yeah, 2020 was foot on the gas pedal like crazy.
And who's coming up with like the video concept ideas? Was it a tag team effort, or he was doing it, or how did that work out?
It's usually a tag team effort. Like, pretty much like me and my cousin, like I said, since we live so close to each other, we'll always hang out a couple times a week, and we'll just kind of sit there, have a couple of drinks, smoke a joint, and we'll just think about different ideas. And most of the time I'll show him like new things I record, and I kind of let him, like, if I have like 4 or 5 songs to show him, I'll play through them and I'll kind of take his lead on what he feels like. Oh, we got to do a video for that. We got to do a video for that. And it'll always start with like him coming up with like a few ideas for a concept, maybe like a few opening shots. And then we kind of just like spitball back and forth until we have a full video. And then there's been times where we just pull up to a location and we're like, let's just film and see what happens. Like my videos are still pretty simplistic. So they're pretty like simple DIY. So sometimes we'll have like a very full written pre-planned concept. And then sometimes it'll be like rogue, go with the flow type of vibe.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but that minimalistic approach right now just seems like it kind of also goes with the music, because like it's not like it kind of like it goes one to one, right? Like it's not like you're talking about some like turn up rage shit and then you're sitting in front of a tennis court, like just talking. You know what I mean? Like,
100%. And honestly, like even from like the more business standpoint, until like you got crazy revenue coming in, you don't need to be blowing bags on a music video. Like I'm already very lucky enough that my cousin invested in his own setup and stuff. Like, because I understand like there's some artists that don't have access to the kind of camera and gear I do. Like there's some artists who are shooting on iPhones like I used to do way back, and like I respect that too. So I'm happy that I'm at the point now where I have a great access to gear and shit, but we still keep it simple because there's no need to like spend like $5,000 on props and locations and this and that. You know, I feel like you can capture a lot DIYing for pretty cheap before you have to kind of get crazy with videos. And there's still major artists who are going simple with their videos to this day. So it's not really needed. Like once in a while, if you have an extravagant idea, I get it. But I feel like until things are really moving like that, it's probably not the best place where you should be putting all of the money, you know, like especially when you can be throwing it in like digital marketing and things that are going to put you in front of more people.
Yeah, we could definitely concur with that for sure.
Yeah.
I would say for me, my favorite videos thus far that I caught up when I was online for you was, dude, what's the name of the song that you named it after the famous Canadian tennis player?
Oh yeah, Genie Bouchard.
Bro, it's just fire. Like it's so simple, but it's just fire.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that one was dope, bro. Because I was like, yo, like I think this is about like an actual person. I had to look her up, but she's fine as fuck. I'd make a song about her. But yeah, dude, that was a dope one, dude. That was definitely a dope one.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's crazy because she ended up hearing the song and shouting it out, so it was cool.
Oh, really?
Oh, for real?
So pretty much, I put that out last year in like May, and then one day it was in July. It was like the day before me and my cousin were taking off to like celebrate with a bunch of people for his birthday, and I got like my Twitter started going crazy, and I'm like, why is my Twitter going crazy? Like I look on Twitter and someone's like, yo, Genie Bouchard just like shouted you out on her Twitter, and I went to her page and she shared this song.
Oh, that's
She was like, yo, this is crazy. She's like, can I be in the music video?
So that's a way to get in the DMs.
Hell yeah.
Super creative way.
Yeah, she ended up showing love, and then Yahoo Sports and Sport Bible like wrote articles about it, and it sent the streams going crazy. So that was like my first like viral moment. It was pretty cool.
Was that intentional? Like, did you think in the back of your head at all, like she might?
You know what's crazy? And I shit you not. The day before I put the song out, I told my team, I was like, she is going to hear this song one way or another. I have faith that this song will make it to her, whether it's us tweeting it at her or sending it to her or just like the universe putting it out there. And I don't know how it got to her to this day, but 2 months after the release, it got there. So I'm super grateful for it. But before it came out, I was like, she's going to hear it. I have a feeling she's going to hear the song at some point.
Dude,
so it was pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That had to be a great feeling, dude. Yeah, so that's definitely, we're happy for you for that.
It was dope for sure.
Obviously, that's the hometown showing love, which is always great. There was one line in your song that was like, the hometown doesn't fuck with me, though. Like something around that extent. So like, were you talking about Montreal, or were you talking about Toronto, or just like Canada in general?
I was talking about Montreal for sure, because I feel like in terms of the last few years of me really leaning into my artistry, I wasn't really involved in the Toronto scene. So I don't expect like Toronto just to be like, oh, yo, we claim and we know about him, because I wasn't really involved in that community, to be fair. But with Montreal, I feel like I've been grinding more locally here more than ever over the last couple of years, like 3 to 5 years. So I was talking about Montreal for sure, because it's a very interesting scene. And obviously it's a tough scene for like a fully English artist because of the language politics and everything that kind of goes on here. And Joey even kind of touched up on
that's what
the state of the Montreal scene. You know what I mean? It's a bit weird here. It's like it didn't really have, like, it hasn't had its Toronto moment where it's, you know, they're embracing their talent now. Like there was a point in time where Toronto didn't really claim their artists because there was nobody really doing it at like a big level. And then obviously when Drake opened up the floodgates, everybody wanted to recognize Toronto and get on their artists early. In Montreal, I feel like the city doesn't really get behind their artists in the very like early phases, even when they start to get like a solid buzz. And there's artists who are already like well on their way, who are starting to chart on like Billboard and radio, that aren't even comfortable with taking risks of playing like a hometown show yet, which is crazy to think, because you would think they would be ready to sell out a venue and take that leap, but Montreal's just not hitting like that. So it was kind of just a little shot at the lack of participation in the city that us artists from here feel sometimes.
So is that like, obviously I mean, not just, but you moved out there. Does that make you like, all right, let me fucking keep doing my thing so they finally give me love? Or like in the back of your head or at the forefront, you're like, yo, at some point I gotta get the fuck out of here if I want to make it, because like they're not showing me love.
You mean in regards to me going from Toronto to Montreal?
Well, no, like knowing that Montreal for the past, like you've been there for 6 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so in those 6 years, you really haven't gotten the love that you maybe deserve from the actual grind and being like almost like a local product. Does that challenge you? Like, yo, I need to prove to them that I'm the shit? Or like, maybe this isn't going to be my forever place. Like I got to maybe go somewhere else.
For sure, on more the side of it's not my forever place. Like one thing that I will never do that I see so many artists in Montreal get caught up in is having to like prove themselves to Montreal, because I feel like when an artist has that state of mind, they're in this vicious cycle loop. You know what I mean? I got nothing to prove to the city of Montreal. I would rather go where the people are and expand. And that kind of plays into what I was saying earlier in terms of like the power of the internet allows you to put yourself out there in so many different places, especially when you're digitally marketing with ads and everything. You can cover a lot of different ground that can go way beyond your city you reside in, your hometown. So for me, it's about just getting myself out to a wide audience, no matter where they're from, and just going where the people are. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm a bit of a nomad in terms of my like identity to a certain city. You know, I have great relationships that I've made in the city of Montreal and even in Toronto. And I appreciate like I appreciate a city more for the people I meet there, not for the actual, like, you know, the scene and the social cliques and all that type of shit. Because there's a social clique in Montreal, just like there is in every city. And I would rather put my effort into just going where the people are rather than jumping up and down, trying to get the approval of one community.
I respect that.
Speaking of audiences, if you were able to just like handpick a bunch of big headliners that you could open up for, like who would you think would be a prime opportunity for you to kind of expand your fan base overnight?
Like any artist?
Yeah, any group. It could be like 5, 10, just like who you think to yourself, damn, if only I could get in front of their audience, like this, I would change the game for my fan base.
I would say a couple off the top. I would say like Kid Cudi, because he talks about like a lot of real shit that people go through, and a lot of my music is writing about the human experience. So I feel like in terms of striking a chord with people and with that kind of vulnerable music, Kid Cudi, I would say maybe even like a Drake, you know, because I feel like there's a certain part of my music that has that mainstream appeal.
Sure.
But one thing about both of those artists that meet in the middle is they speak from very honest places. So I would say those two artists, and any artist that just has that kind of open book type of music that really puts themselves on the line. You know what I mean? There's a lot of, artists in the game that just wouldn't hit my market because they're talking about like a more upper echelon lifestyle or something. And don't get me wrong, Drake does that, but Drake still has that very centered part to him where he's gonna still tell you about his feelings. So I would say like the Drakes, the Cuddies, and just the kind of artists that really wear their heart on their sleeves.
Nice. Yeah, another one. I mean, I think a lot of this resemblance with the cover art that we were talking about was, or a couple of the cover arts was, it had a similar minimalistic style to Russ. I don't know if that was the inspiration
Russ
behind a couple of those.
I respect Russ a lot too. He's definitely someone that has given me a lot of good gems through the interviews that I've watched from him. He's definitely a spokesperson for the independent artist. So he's definitely someone who I really appreciate in terms of his grind and everything he's done. And I fuck with his music heavy. So yeah, Russ for sure too. That would be good as well. That's a good one to throw in there without a doubt.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Cuddy and Drake. So for you, again, maybe something sparked in your head in 2007. We were like, writing raps. Like, what were the inspirations before that to even get you thinking about like making music?
Early on, honestly, like my introductory to everything was Eminem, and then through Eminem, it was, even though Eminem was the first like rapper I really started to listen to heavily, I kind of appreciated him more for what he put me on to, Dre, and then going back on NWA, getting put onto Obi Trice, 50 Cent, and then everybody that's kind of under that umbrella, you know what I mean?
I forgot about Obi Trice though.
Obi Trice and Eminem used to link up for the craziest like collaborations.
Yeah. I think I bought an Obi Trice album once. That's how good he was. Like back then.
The song Drips is like one of my like favorite like Eminem Obi Trice songs. They're like just talking crazy shit.
Yeah.
But I kind of like the floodgates that Eminem opened up for me. So Eminem, like that was my introductory point. And then like early 2000s, I went on this like crazy like Southern wave because that's what was running the game.
Okay.
Ludacris, Lil Jon, is it D4L? There's this, the song
D4L, yeah.
So like, they were running shit at the time. It was like a very Southern wave before like the new school, like Southern wave came up like in the 2010s. But so I would say I was listening to like all of that stuff. But what really inspired me to like step into my artistry and really go for it, like other than Asher Roth, like giving me that kind of like boost to go for it, is like, is the Kid Cuddies, the Drakes, that freshman class, Charles Hamilton, Wale, all of that early, like the 2010 and on, like the artists that sparked like the 09 movement and took over like 2010 and onward kind of thing. For sure.
It's a good list, bro. It's a good list of people. It's wild though, because I remember it was like New Year's Eve 2010 going into 2011, and I just found Charles Hamilton Brooklyn Girl. Dog, I took the aux cord at that party and played that shit like 1,000 times, bro. They were like, change the song.
That song went crazy when it dropped. That rang off like crazy.
Yeah. He was supposed to be like the next big artist.
Yeah, he really was, dude.
Yeah.
He was supposed to have like a crazy career in front of him, and I don't know what happened, honestly. Like he dealt with I know he definitely dealt with some mental health issues, and he was going through some things. And he had a few hot takes that kind of set him back with like the hip hop community. Like there was that whole thing where with the Jay Dilla thing where he was like, Jay Dilla spoke to me and told me to like do this and that. And it just didn't sit right. It was
people the right way.
Yeah. It took kind of a left field, but I think also he just didn't keep going with that commercial appeal.
Yeah.
Like I think
because when your first hit's like, that big, it's like, you follow that up.
When that song dropped, I think people are like, he's going to keep dropping these kind of records. And I just don't think that's where his heart was. But he had a few songs in between in the last like 5 years or so that I listened to. And I'm like, regardless of the success and like the mainstream appeal, that man's pen game has never went away. Like he's definitely still has it, but he's obviously fell back and doing his thing on a more low key note. But in terms of a writer and a lyricist, like he's that guy for sure.
So a question for you, and I'll let Blair jump in on this one as well. So for you, because obviously even when we asked for the introduction, you led with songwriter first. So like in a perfect world, do you enjoy being in front of the camera? Or if it was like, yo, we'll put you on this label, we'll give you mad bread, and you're just gonna write for other artists? Like, which one actually like piques like your excitement the most?
Definitely being an artist where I'm you know, where my message and my story's at the forefront. But I do songwriting too. Like that's my job at the moment. So I am doing stuff behind the scenes where I'm writing for different smaller artists and producers and doing like guest vocal work. But definitely where my passion and my heart is, it's getting my story to be on the forefront and blowing that up for sure, without a doubt.
Nice. And are you doing that full time?
Yeah, full time. And it's actually the pandemic that made me like step into that, because before the pandemic, I was working like every kind of 9-to-5 job you could think of. I was in the dish pit scrubbing dishes. I was stacking boxes in the factory.
Respect.
And just before the pandemic, like 2 to 3 years before the pandemic, I was working at a tennis club, which was like a pretty chill job to have like while you're pursuing your dream, because it was very laid back. I was doing like minimal like grounds work, customer service type of shit. So when the pandemic hit, obviously everybody was, you know, forced to stay home, and everyone got the chance to test the waters with their craft as a full-time gig. And that's what I did. I started waking up every day and recording and writing every day. And when my boss hit me up and was like, hey, it's time to come back, I was kind of like,
nah,
I don't know how I feel about that. Like I'm in this pocket where I'm starting to like get into that mode where I'm going like full-time energy. And a buddy of mine was already in this kind of network of producers where he was songwriting. He's like a studio musician, like a session artist. And he was like, you know, I can link you with these people. I think you'd be like really good at writing and this and that. Because other than just like rap music, I've always had kind of a knack for like pop hooks and stuff like that. Like I feel like I can go over the spectrum like pretty well. So I was like, yeah, link me up. You know what I mean? And he started to introduce me to some people, and I would do it here and there for like small checks and stuff like that. Like very just like a hook there, a song there. And then I started to think about it more. And I was like, I think I could do that full time. So I went back for one day to my 9-to-5 job when the pandemic kind of let up and everyone could return to work. And I sat there, and at the end of my shift, I'm like, I've reached the ceiling here. This is not it anymore. And I like pulled my boss aside, and I had like a very honest, open discussion with him. I was like, look, he already knew I was a musician, and I was like going for my dream, and I was using that as like just like to pay my bills. And I was like, look, I feel like I've hit a ceiling here. There's not much more raises I can get here. It's kind of taken its toll. I'm like, I feel like I would start resenting this job. So let me leave on a high note and kind of go do my thing. And then he was like, you know what? I respect that. I feel that. And after that day, I left the job. I hit up my buddy. I'm like, I'm ready to go full time with this shit. And he linked me with a few people. And I just started writing, songwriting, and doing like vocalist work full time. And it was good for me because it was the first time I truly bet on myself and like kind of stepped into the unknowing. And me personally, I feel like one of the most healthy and progressive things that we can do as humans is step into the unknown, take those risks and stick your neck out there sometimes. You know what I mean? And it was the first time that I said, hey, I could start this tomorrow and not know if I'm paying rent next month, but I'm going to take that gamble on myself. And it was like the first time I detached myself from comfort and knowing where my next paycheck was coming from. Because when you think about it, when you have a 9-to-5 job, there's no knock to anybody who does, because I did it for like 12 years plus.
Right. I mean, we're doing it now, so yeah, I get it.
Yeah, you know where your next check is coming from. Yeah. You know on what day you're getting paid, how much you're getting paid. You know when you can purchase certain things, this and that. And I said, you know what? I did that grind for so long, and as an artist, I want to kind of just take a leap into having to wake up and hustle and really go for it. And that's what it is on this grind, because when you're songwriting and working in different sessions for artists and shit like that, you have to make sure you're networking and seeking the work just as much as you're getting offers. So it made me wake up and say, I got to go get it today. I'm not just going to the for sure thing. I actually have to go create opportunities. So it kind of made me tap into that entrepreneurial type of vibe. So I appreciate it because it made me build a better routine and structure for myself and actually wake up with, you know, a bit more of a drive instead of dragging my feet to the place I knew where I was going to get my check from every 2 weeks kind of thing. So, and that also helped me in my personal music. Cause now I'm like, okay, I got to wake up every day. I got to write the song today. I got to get this cover art done. I got to send this off to the engineer. I got to shoot the video today. Cause we got to, you know, pitch it this day. So it put an extra like pep in my step, you know, type of vibe.
Nice.
Good for you, bro. It's amazing.
No, it's super impressive. And I always think that's kind of the gift of this pandemic is it forced a lot of people to reevaluate their lives and say, fuck it, it's short. I'm just going to do what makes me happy, even if it's tough. So kudos to you for being one of those people. I'm sure any listeners who are considering leaping into whatever it is, even if it's not music, who aren't sure if they should do it, I would say just do it. Obviously, if you have a family to feed or something, maybe it's not that simple. But in any case, I think every human being should take the time to pursue their dreams. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But at the end of the day, knowing that you tried something, I think is very important. But in terms of your day in the life, is it pretty consistent, or is there like a routine of like, hey, there's, you know, I'm doing hooks like every Monday or beats, you know, this day? How does that look? Or are you kind of working with these individuals and they're telling you what they need and you work with that?
Yeah, so pretty much how it's set up for me now is like usually a day in the life for me. I usually like to get to my work like right in the morning. I like to just tackle everything from the top of the day. So yeah, it usually is most of the time when I'm working like contract to contract, it's producer saying, hey, look, I have like a pop singer that wants this kind of vibe, and they'll send me a bunch of references and I'll just cook up like 2 to 3 reference tracks, send it their way. And it's just going like back and forth until, you know, we come to the common ground of what they want. But it's usually, lately it's been like writing full records from the ground up. So it's definitely a little bit more time consuming. Sometimes it's just a hook and it's, you know, a couple hours of work. But lately, in the last like few months, it's been like start to finish full, like coming up with the records from the ground up. So it's like a lot of Zoom calls, a lot of back and forth. Contracts are lasting a lot longer than kind of just jumping from, you know, one contract to another. So yeah, it's mostly like full songwriting these days. But in terms of like the routine that I have, like I like to get my work done as early as I can. I used to be like a night owl, and I still am at some moments, but I try to kind of go with the mind state like you win the morning, you win the day type of vibe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'll get my work done right away. And then I feel like if I get my work done, that's more time to work on the Matt Yonge project and kind of ride that out for the rest of the day. So yeah, work always at the top of the morning. And yeah, lately it's been like a lot of full songs from the ground up.
Nice,
that's
man.
awesome, dude. Yeah.
But it's good too, because it also challenges me, and it keeps putting my pen to the test, which obviously always comes back to my work. So it's beneficial, even though I'm writing songs that aren't really on brand for me, it still like keeps me very sharp, so I can bring that sharpness back into my personal projects.
Right. And are you, in terms of your career, like, do you have a desired level of recognition or fame? Because I know some people, you know, they want to be the biggest artist ever since Drake or Michael Jackson or whoever you want to name, whereas some others are like, you know what, I just want to make this a long-lasting career for the rest of my life, but I don't necessarily need the Grammys or something. Like, just curious what your aspirations are when you think, I don't know, 5-10 years from now or whatever.
I would say I want to reach a lot of people, just for the sake of, I want my music to touch as many people as possible in terms of helping them. You know what I mean? Like, I write music for myself and my own therapy and my own expression, but the added bonus and the other motive is I want people to find something positive within it. You know, if they can relate to it and it can help them, then that's even better. So I definitely want to take it as big as I possibly can. You know what I mean? As long as people are really connecting to the message in my music, whatever size that fan base looks like, I'm super content with, because I'd rather have a very locked in core fan base than maybe a bunch of followers, but be more of like an artist that has casual fans. So
Yeah.
if having a dedicated, truly engaged fan base meant like I'm doing like small 300 to 500 cap rooms, but consistently, then at least I'm really speaking to those people. So I want to take it as big as I can, but only if the people are truly tapped into what I'm saying.
I feel that.
I like that. I mean, obviously, we're fans, so we can give you an idea of like where at least my head went when I listened to your tracks. So for me personally, I love the first track off the project, Enough Said.
Same.
Because like for me, the reason why I enjoy your music, because yeah, like anyone can put out, not anyone, but like, when people put out bangers, it's like, it's hard to relate to that on a day-to-day basis. Like I got to be in the mood for that, right? So when I'm listening to your stuff, like either at the gym or driving or just, killing time at the crib, like it takes me to my point in time where I could relate to what you were going through. You know what I mean? Like, or at least what you were saying you were going through. Like I can remember about that girl who wouldn't hit me up or something, or who is, like those times, you know what I mean? Like those are like, I think Drake had a great phrase, like, I'm trying to make the soundtrack to your life, right? Like that
absolutely
in particular, like took me back to a time like, man, I was going through that shit. That fucking chick didn't hit me. You know what I mean? Like, so like, I can really go appreciate that track. I think that just like goes to your artistry. So if you have maybe 500 to 1,000 fans like that, one day, like at least people are engaged and can like relate. It's not just some throwaway song that, I could bop my head to, but like, man, I don't know what the fuck you're saying, or I can't relate to your shit. So like, you don't really mean that much to me.
No, I agree with that, because the things I'm speaking about in my music, they're also very specific to certain things that we all feel. So there's obviously time and place for bangers and everything like that, but there's only a few settings where you can really listen to bangers. And you have to be like, either you're going hard at the gym or you're out on the town doing something crazy. But at least the last project I put out, that is music you can drive to. On the metro commuting to work, when you're in your room alone, when you just came back and you're kind of in your head about something. So I feel like that last project can really resonate with people, because there's so many different settings and times and places where you can throw that record on.
Yeah.
If it was just a record full of bangers, then maybe that's just going to be your soundtrack to your pre-drink or your night out on the town. Yeah. But I feel like with that part one of my album that I put out, there's many different settings where you could throw that on.
Totally agreed. Yeah, so that's why like I appreciate the work, because it transforms you either to like, it reminds you what you're going through today, or at a time where it's like, damn, I was going through that shit, and like this really kind of is how like like you said, it's a human experience. Like I feel like that's definitely more relatable. Obviously, then like time will tell like how much more appeal it gets. But yeah, we definitely, at least I, speaking for myself in the pod, like we definitely respect the artist that you put into that.
I appreciate that. And it's really the subject matter too, and just coming from a genuine place, because now I would say over the last like few months, for the first time ever in my musical journey, I'm getting like DMs from supporters. They're like, I feel like you wrote that song about exactly what I'm going through.
Nice.
And that's like, to me, that's like the most amazing like message I could ever get. I don't care about the extra shit. Like any accolade you get is cool, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But when you start to get messages like that, you start to see the greater purpose of what music actually serves. So it's like, it's shit like that really strikes a chord with me. And when someone can hit me up and say, it feels like you wrote this song like tailored to my experience, that's amazing stuff. That's powerful.
For sure. And it just goes to show too, like how similar we are as human beings. And I think it's incredibly important for like an artist like yourself, because a lot of people, inevitably fans are going to look up to you and appreciate your talent, and maybe it might even create this complex where they think you're unrelatable because you're so good or whatever the case is. But when you tell those authentic stories, they're like, oh shit, he's on and has fans and is making all this great music, but he also has relationship issues or, likes to drink when he's stressed out or whatever the case is. So I think that's what's dope about your music, especially Enough Said, which I also really liked. And curious, like with the EP and even that song, like what was there a single event that triggered these?
What's her name, bro? What
creative process?
So pretty much that. So the album, like it's called Living in My Head Again, Part 1, Fear and Lost Love. There's going to obviously be a Part 2 that's dropping in the summer. So
nice.
The inspiration behind Part 1 is a few relationships that I went through that really were defining relationships in my life. And it's pretty much, it's a whole concept from the music to the visuals. Because if you noticed in the visuals, like Enough Said and like my other, I don't know if you saw the video for The Storm, it's like that suit character with the blood and the cuts on my face. So that represents like a very chaotic, broken-hearted, down and out time in my life. And the first part of the album, those 5 songs on that project, are about being at the most defeated starting point of a breakup, when you're down in the dumps, when you feel like shit, when you feel like there's no end in sight to how you're feeling.
And like everything reminds you of them. Like,
yeah, but not just the heartbreak in itself, the anxieties that come with it, all of the insecurities. So that's what Part 1 touches up on, a few very defining relationships in my life. And then Part 2 is going to lead into the more healing process and kind of getting back on your horse and getting that confidence back.
Nice.
But yeah, a few pretty detrimental relationships is what sparked Part 1 of the album.
And I was just gonna say, is Part 2, is that where the twerk club tracks come in? The celebration?
Part 2, yeah. So Part 2 is more of like finding your groove again, and there's a whole aesthetic of character that's correlated to Part 2, like how the suit, the torn up suit and blood on the face, kind of bruised up character was in Part 1. So it's the more up-tempo records, more of the, I guess you could say, the bangers. But what I will say, even though they're more up-tempo, confident records, they're still very true to me, and I'm still telling my story, and they still speak from a place of confidence and telling people to love yourself, appreciate yourself, and to, go to the mountaintops and talk your shit and believe in yourself. So I think it's the more motivation music and the believe in yourself type of approach.
Nice,
man.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Do you already have like a release date for that one?
I'm thinking June. I don't know exactly what day in June, but for sure June, because I have a whole like rollout from the music videos and playing shows around that time. So June for sure. I know in that month it's definitely going to drop.
Yeah, because I've been in Quebec a couple of times. I had some friends and family out there. I know like summertime in Canada is wild, fam. So like,
yeah,
you gotta be out
especially
there.
In Montreal. Like I've had some good Toronto summers living there for a majority of my life, but Montreal in the summer is wild. It's a whole vibe. So like in the winter, it gets really, everyone locks down and nobody wants any parts of anything. But in the summer, like anybody that I've met from the US or anywhere else in the world, and they visit Montreal in the summer, it leaves a lasting impression on them for sure. They have memories when they come to the city off of the summer vibe.
Yeah, dude, I went, like, I was young too, man, maybe like 13, but I went to the jazz festival in July.
Yeah.
I was just like, this is crazy, dog. Like, everyone is just out drunk. Like, that's
the thing. We have the Grand Prix Festival, like the race car, the NASCAR, the Indy cars that come. That's in June. That's a whole event. Then we have like Osheaga and a few other music festivals. So there's like a lot of like certain pinpoints in certain months where everyone's out wilding, and it brings people from all over to Montreal.
Nice.
Dope.
Nice.
My family's actually, I have family from Mississauga, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
That's where my parents live.
Nice.
Oh,
yeah, I used to go out there when I was younger. And I'm from California, so to me it was always like just that place that had snow and my aunt and a couple cousins. And I'm a dual citizen, even though I don't claim to know a whole lot about Canada, but it definitely holds a special place in my heart. I need to go back there soon though.
Shout out to 905. That's the hometown party next door. It's produced some big talent.
Yeah,
nice. I didn't even know that.
Shout out Mississauga for sure.
Nice.
All right, man. So before we get out of here, I definitely want to ask you about some like current events, man. So like you taking a step back, removing yourself from, writing from other people, or you yourself as the artist. Like who do you see, or like what movement do you see as like the next big thing in music? Like just like you're like, wow, this artist or this kind of artist really is just like what we're gonna see the next couple years.
I honestly think we're in a place where that real rap type shit's coming back. You know what I mean? Like I feel like J. Cole and the Kendricks, they set it up so the new generation of artists could take from that. Obviously, you're always gonna have your like that kind of auto-tune mainstream type shit, but like you look at like JID, there's this artist that's coming up now. I think his name's Christopher Patrick. He's crazy too, and he's starting to blow up. But I feel like lyrics and that real rap is starting to come back, and even on like the whole vibe of, I feel like records are not going to need like a full melodic approach to blow up. Like even like look at Jack Harlow. He has melodic records, but What's Poppin', that new shit he dropped, Nail Tech, it's just rap. Even the choruses are rap. So I feel like we're getting to a point where maybe it's more about the lyrics, and you don't need just the usual melodic template anymore to make a hit record. So I feel like people might be diving more into the substance of what people are saying.
Hope so.
Yeah.
Because we've spoken about a lot on the pod. Like it's just sometimes it gets scary about like, you hope it becomes that, but then you see like all these like other artists that all they want to talk about is just like gang shit, street shit. And it's like, and then we get shocked when they get killed. It's like, well, we keep consuming this shit. So like, what do you think they're going to keep rapping about,
Absolutely. I feel like when you can be vulnerable about, the shit that's really going on in your life, rather than having to portray something. And for some artists, they're really going through that shit.
Sure. Yeah.
It's definitely it's a breath of fresh air when you can look at an artist who might seem like, oh, it looks like they might come from some crazy shit, but they're actually trying to talk about something more deeper than that. They don't want to just be pinpointed to that, and they see a greater purpose.
Totally agree.
I feel like even in a way, like artists, even like 21 Savage and shit, like he has bangers and shit, but he also talks about wanting to kind of rise up above some of the things he's been through. You know what I mean? And I just appreciate when someone from like a different walk of life, where they might have come from a very brutal place, or a place of tension, and they don't really just always talk about that. They talk about wanting to move on to bigger and better things. You got to respect that.
100%.
Yeah, I think as a consumer, that's what I really respect, is the authenticity, but also like the different sides of the story. Because I don't know, I feel like with drill, like I definitely like enjoy some drill music just because of the energy and the vibe, and like,
of course, yeah,
it sounds good.
Always
on like
tempo, and it's easy to just like get right into the zone on.
Right. But then I'm like conflicted, because part of me knows there's some real shit happening behind it that obviously won't affect me. So it's like hard for the average listener to be sympathetic or whatever. But I think it's important that every artist kind of, if they are speaking about something that may be negative, to kind of speak on the other side of things, just so that the influence on the young minds isn't as one-sided. And I think people appreciate like Jack Harlow too, or people like him, because of his personality and just like not taking himself too seriously. I think that's another important aspect as well, at least for the artists that I like. I think that's why Drake in certain aspects became popular. Granted, like a lot of times that will lead to like the corny label or whatever, if you're not mean mugging the camera and talking shit all day. But at the end of the day, like the fans will really choose their hero or so to speak. So
absolutely. And you could tell a guy like Jack Harlow, he knows who he is. And when you know who you are, you can be yourself at all times. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
That's
100%.
it's definitely important.
Yep. Cool, man. I did want to ask, like, just as unless there's anything you want to bring up before we get to that, if you have any last words or advice for the listeners. Obviously you're an accomplished creative in this space, which is incredibly hard for anyone to say. So kudos again to you. But for someone who's like thinking of pursuing this or is in the middle of it but struggling, like what key things would you want to leave with them? Keywords.
I would say, first and foremost, if you're going to take any leap into anything creative, make sure it's the most honest and true representation of who you are. Because it would be a shame if you hindered who you were or dimmed your own light. Like, always be yourself. Always give the most raw, uncut, unapologetic version of yourself, because that's what people are going to fall in love with, the real, genuine, authentic version of you. Always be yourself and just continue to put shots up, jump shots every single day. That's what gets people there. You know, I see so many people talk about luck and you have to be in this place at that time. I'm the artist and the person that says, fuck that. I go the opposite way. I say self-belief, hard work, and showing up every day is going to get you to where you want to be. You know what I mean? So stay true to who you are. Make people fall in love with the person you really are. Show up every single day and keep knocking on that door. That's what I would say.
Love it. Dude.
Amazing words, man.
Yeah, I'm inspired. We're about to drop like 4 more episodes tonight. Fuck it.
I know, shit. I know. I was gonna take a nap after this, but I'm staying up all night.
That's what it's all
Run this
about.
shit back. Yo, who's next in Canada? I'm going to fucking pod tonight. Like this. Oh, that's awesome. Well, Matt, man, we appreciate you. Let the people know where they can check you out, your socials, and obviously what you got coming up next.
Yeah, so pretty much it's the next big project for me is the Summertime, Living in My Head Again Part 2, The Bounce Back. That's the name of the project. Expect that in June of this summer, 2022. And Matt Yonge, MATTYONGE, YONGE, on every platform from Spotify, Apple, Instagram. Google it, you'll find me.
Amazing, dude. Yeah, we'll put all the links on the YouTube page and the Instagram post as well. My God, we appreciate you. Definitely stay on while we say our goodbyes. But yeah, man, we definitely appreciate you. Great fucking message. Like sometimes there's not much out there at the surface level, but dude, diving deeper into your socials and just getting to know you now for the past hour, man, dude, great individual, man. And we'll, again, if we're ever in Montreal, Toronto, we'll definitely come kick it with you for sure. Maybe not go fishing, but we'll hang out.
I appreciate it.
Yep, thoroughly impressed. Appreciate it. As far as this content, you can get it on all platforms, www.audio-theory.com. And as Danny mentioned, all of Matt Yonge's socials and everything will be in the YouTube description box. But otherwise, tune into the next episode. Really appreciate you.
Matt, peace.
Appreciate you guys, man.
Peace.
We're out.